What's going on, guys? Just got done working on this guy up here, actually. My high cycle killer. I got a new Classic Army metal lower receiver. Really made this thing a lot more sturdy. But now it's shooting in full auto only. I need to replace the cutoff lever. Have all the parts that I'm going to try swapping it out with right here. Just some old parts. Anyway, that's not the point of the video. Today's video, we're going to be talking about these guys right here. Yes, the P-Boys is back together after I don't even want to talk about how much money and time that one took. Got this new gun right here. We're going to talk about that and, of course, the XCR, the latest video. Today, guys, the focus of this video is going to be on the different ways you can upgrade your airsoft guns, what you should do, how you should plan it, and what you should expect out of it. Sorry for the awkward positioning on the camera, but I didn't want to hold it in my hand, and I need to get a better tripod setup or whatever. I have it in my vice grip right now, but anyway, showing all you these three guns right here. They each have their own specific build type. There's just different philosophies on how you can upgrade your gun. Now, the first thing you need to realize is that you need to have a plan for what you want your gun to shoot like. Two of these guns are similar, but one of them is, again, a little bit different. The XCR and the P-Boys are both DSGs, dual sector gear airsoft guns, and then the LVOA gun that I just got is a single sector gear with a 14-to-1 setup, SSG, so short stroked, I think 3 teeth off the sector gear or something like that. More suited for outdoors than the other two. Now, these builds aren't completed just yet. I'm getting a little bit of FPS issues on the hop-up systems on both this gun and then the XCR. I'm going to get some new hop-up chambers and also get some hop-ups, R-hops installed in them so I can get some better accuracy. But regardless, they still shoot around 320 FPS on a .2, so they're still usable, just a little bit lower than what they should be actually shooting at. Anyway, different philosophies on the build style, different internals, completely different internals across all three. But yeah, the first thing you need to realize is that you need to have a plan for what you want to build your gun on. Do you want a balanced build? If so, you can use quite a few of the stock components, maybe just do a high torque motor, MOSFET, and battery, and then maybe inner barrel and hop-up system. And you're fine. If you want to do a high-speed build, you might be looking at short stroke 12-to-1s. Think about getting into a DSG, and something with a really snappy trigger response. Or you could be looking at a outdoor setup. So you might be sticking with 18-to-1s, upgrade 18-to-1s, or 20-to-1 torque gears, torque motor, shooting around 18 to 20 rounds a second, but at like well over 400 FPS, something like that. Just there's different ways that you can build your guns. So you need to basically have an idea on what you want to do with them. Now, the next thing you need to do is actually set up a budget for your actual gun. And this is probably going to be the most challenging for most people to get done correctly. But the basic idea around it is that there's a certain budget that each airsoft gun should have, and personally, in my opinion, that you should be able to spend money on in airsoft. So think of it this way. And again, it's going to be a little bit challenging, but just bear with me. What is the definition of a totaled vehicle? A totaled vehicle is a car that's been in an accident, and it's going to cost more to repair the car than the car is actually worth. So if you have, let's say, a brand new car off the lot, and its retail value would be $40,000, it's going to be pretty hard to total that car if you can just get a fender bender, because you can probably get paint work, body repair, that kind of stuff, maybe some suspension parts replaced for well under $10,000, depending on the vehicle. But if you have a old car from 2003 and you get the engine blows on it, it costs $2,000 and it's going to cost $3,000 to repair, that car is pretty much totaled because, again, it costs more to fix it than the car is actually worth. This is the same premise I take with airsoft, except it's reversed because we're not talking about it's a pro instead of a con. So in my personal opinion, you should not upgrade an airsoft gun with internals that cost more than the worth of its gun on its own. If you do, it's not an upgrade, it's an overhaul. And that's perfectly fine, but at that standpoint, you might as well just build one from scratch, which is what the P-Boys is right here. Now, I will say, if you are going to overhaul a gun, spend more than the gun is actually worth. You need to be buying a gun that is at least $350, personally, in my opinion. Now, again, that's $350 MSRP. And around that, again, maybe you might be able to go down to $300 depending on the brand and actual gun that it actually is. But around the $300-$350 price point is the price of the gun that you want to at least get into before you look at it completely overhauling the internals. Now, to give you a good example of what I mean by this, we're going to take a look at one of my favorite airsoft guns, and now most reliable, my AK-105. This thing is awesome. This is a base, I think the SKU for this was a CYM-MA CM031D, so it was a CYM AK-105 from like 2014 is when this thing was first brand new. Really good airsoft gun. But the MSRP on this guy was around, I would say, $150 to $160 fresh out of the box. Now I got mine on sale for around $117 because, again, this is an older model gun. I bought it, I think, in 2016, 4 years ago, and it's been really good to me. But we're looking at the MSRP of this actual gun. Now, bear in mind, all the external parts are not factored into this. External parts, again, can vary in price point from $20 to $300 depending on what you're putting on your airsoft gun, and it has no bearing on the actual performance of it. Rather, it's just for looks. So externals are not considered what I think of overhaul. And all externals, if they're good quality, again, are going to make your gun better regardless of price. So we're focusing on internals for this video. Now, again, since this gun is $160, that would give me $160 to actually spend on the internal parts. And the internal parts that are in here right now are roughly around that price point. So I have some SHS or impact arms gears, which are higher QC produced SHS gears. They're 16:1s. I have a SHS piston installed in here, which is like $10, so it look $30 right there. Air seal components, I am using a stock cylinder head, upgraded lines air nozzle, stock piston head, and stock cylinder. So the only thing upgraded is the air nozzle, which is around $5-10 for the Lonix one. I think it's $5. So we're looking around $35 right there. Upgraded spring, $11. It's a Sistema spring M100, SP100, 110 spring, I think. Boost motor, ASG boost motor, a 30K, $40. Die-tack inner barrel, $15. Upgraded hop-up bucking. It was a Super Mac hop-up from Maple Leaf, $10. Full metal hop-up chamber, $15. Obviously, I'm not keeping track of these numbers in my head, but I would guesstimate we're around the $90 to $100 price point, and then tack on the Gate 8 nano active braking MOSFET, which is around $35. We're seeing around the $330, $340 price point as far as internal upgrades on this gun. Now, bushings as well. Upgraded the bushings, so $350 or $150. Anyway, we're right at that price point of $160, $150 of MSRP, and it's a very, very balanced gun. Now, on the completely opposite end of the spectrum, if you're not going to be buying a brand new gun, and we're going to get into this, I guess, in a little bit, but if you're not going to be buying a brand new gun, you need to be looking at a boneyard airsoft gun. So I got this. This is my Phantom PDW Mark 1. I have a Mark 2 that I just built sitting over behind me. But anyway, this is probably one of my favorite boneyard guns I've built. I got this gun, the base AK SVD from JG, for like $27 on Airsplat. So yeah, when Airsplat was still a thing. So I've had this gun for quite some time. One of the oldest guns I have, actually. But it was completely boneyard. I replaced the upper with a crank-off front end. This is a boneyard MP5 handguard that I got in a pack of a boneyard kit from, I think, Echo One eShop or whatever. I'm not sure if they're still around. ZCI suppressor on the end, PTS rail that I drilled on the top of there. Everything else is pretty much, stock externals, but since the gun was so freaking cheap, I could actually just upgrade the internals to what I wanted to and still be within a relatively good budget and price point. Now, internal-wise, I'm still using the stock gearbox, upgraded bushings, 12:1 gears, short-stroked, 4 teeth, M140 spring, or SP140 spring by Garter, upgraded cylinder head, upgraded air nozzle, Lonix, upgraded piston, SHS. I'm using a Starway 35K motor in here with a Gate Warfet. So when you get a boneyard gun, I mean, you can have pretty good performance at a fraction of the cost one of the options you can look into. Now, thankfully, mostly in part to online retailers such as HopUp, you can get into boneyard guns like this a lot easier and with much better build quality than what you would have been able to in the past. In general, airsoft guns manufacturing has skyrocketed in the past 4 years since when I first started getting into teching real seriously. I was able to snag this guy up, a EMG Salient Arms. I think this was a GRY, but he threw on an LVOA rail system on the end here. This gun was like $180. I spent $180 on HopUp to get this. Came with all the parts except for the amplifier on the end, the HopUp and inner barrel system. No motor included, and that's pretty much it. Oh, and also no battery pouch on the back. I added this on my own, but everything else you see on here is nice. He also added a ARP9 stock on the end, which looks pretty cool. But he pretty much, this was one of those GMP i5 gearboxes. GMP fixed the i5 gearbox. I want to like it. I want to try one out, but I've heard so many horror stories about it. He replaces it with a Lonnex gearbox, full Lonnex compression components. He got Lonnex helical gears, which I took out. I couldn't get them to shim properly. Yeah, just a full slew of upgraded internals on the inside of this gun. All Lonnex parts, it seems like. I think he also had a Lonnex spring, but I swapped in a different spring in here. Regardless, he also had APS ambidextrous mag release. But again, that price point alone is well over $500 for the gearbox, the base gun itself, plus the gearbox, all the internal parts. And again, $180 for this. A really good buy. Now, I probably put around, I would say, another $70 on top of it. I had a Leviathan that I had sitting around, so that's another $100 on top of that. So just adding up $180 plus the $110 for that, so we're looking at around $290. $10 for that buttstock pouch in the back, $300. $30 for the amplifier, and it's about a $25 hop-up system. So we're looking at around $350 to $360 for everything. But again, I didn't buy this all at once. But still, that's around the price of the base gun, and I have a full-fledged upgraded internal part. Oh, the motor as well. It's a Franken torque. But it's pretty much similar to a Tinley motor, but I also got that used as well, so save some money there. So around $400 I spent. To do this all completely by yourself with all brand new parts, you'd be looking close to $600, $700, I would say, easily to build something like this. So yeah, that's just the benefit of boneyard guns. You can get some pretty awesome deals, and this is again one of the nicest airsoft gun externally I have right now. And I spent next to nothing for it, comparatively to what's on the inside of this thing. But yeah, I would do a shooting video of this right now. I don't have a extra XT60 connector, so this one's still wired to beans on the Leviathan in the back here, and all my batteries are wired up to XT60. So I need to get some more XT60 connectors to make another harness on the back here, so I can use it properly. And then also I need to ship out my Leviathan because one of the micro switches snapped off, so I'm going to get that replaced and repaired so I can have full functioning full auto. But it's semi-auto only right now. Shoots pretty nicely. But yeah, this is one of the routes you should look at, and one of my favorite routes in all honesty. Now I know I mentioned how if you're going to be upgrading a gun, you shouldn't go over the MSRP of the gun. But even so, even like if you buy a gun for around $200, you can build something pretty freaking awesome if you know what you're doing. So the XCR, again, I love this thing. It's so freaking awesome. This gun internally was under $200, which is crazy to think about for a DSG, but it's true. So I got the EFCS gearbox, which is a gearbox and a MOSFET combo, trigger unit combo for $90. So that knocked off quite a bit of the price point, and I get similar performance to something else like that. It's a quick change gearbox, pretty good internal components, all the extra internal components I need between the stock gearbox and this one to get this thing up and running, and that trigger switch system that is just so freaking nice to pull. On the inside, SHS DSG, an 18-to-1's installed in here, SHS M150 spring. I'm using the stock Aries compression components with an upgraded Lonnex air nozzle. Mad Bull hop-up bucking, or hop-up chamber, Mad Bull ultimate hop-up chamber currently in here. Again, I'm going to be upgrading the barrel systems in here, but stock barrel, Mad Bull blue bucking. So internal-wise, we're seeing $90 plus $30 plus $35 for the gear set and the MOS and the hop-up system. And then the upgraded motor is $24. I got that on eBay. So we're scratching pretty doggone close onto the $200 price point. I might be over by $10, but again, guys, you can easily go over $10 if it's just something simple, and you're gonna be fine. The same thing applies. I'm just talking if you're spending, 50 plus over the MSRP is when you're overhauling the gun. And I was able to get this thing working in great condition. Everything added up, this is probably close to $500, but $200 for internals, $200 for the airsoft gun, and then around $100 for the externals I have on here. So yeah, it's a really nice airsoft gun. This is again a good way to show how to get a balanced airsoft setup really easily. Now that brings us finally to what you should not do, and it's unfortunately one of my favorite guns, probably the number one gun that's caused me the most heartache and pain. It could be because I have this air splat patch on the back here. I think it's very fitting though. Terrible retailer fit onto what used to be terrible airsoft gun. Definitely a lot of horror stories with this thing. But anyway, this is what you shouldn't do. So just to give you some clarity, the base gun on this was a $60 D-Boys M933. And I say that even though there's basically none of that left. This project started off as a $60 airsoft gun. It was pretty much supposed to be, I had a couple extra bucks sitting around. I wanted to get into an airsoft gun, see if I could build something for under $150 with a MOSFET, shot 20 rounds a second, was simple to use, and was an M4 because I had no M4s at the time. I got it to work a little bit, but then the ZCI balance motor unwound itself, so the wiring on the armature came loose, smoked out. The gearbox was poorly machined, so cutoff lever didn't want to go into full auto. Went with the EFCS gearbox, had no idea what I was doing. Did a DSG setup, ended up breaking that. Got a new gearbox. Oh no, I used the old gearbox, stock gearbox from there. Threw a Leviathan in it with a DSG, cracked the gearbox. Finally, got a upgraded gearbox in here. It's a Slong gearbox, super strong, quick change gearbox. 8mm bushings. The retro arms ones didn't fit nicely, so I had to use some ZCI and stock ones to do some machine work to get them to fit. Ended up stripping out, I think, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I stripped out 3 Siege Tech 9-tooth DSGs. So I'm on the 4th one right now, and it's working pretty nicely. And now it has FPS issues. It's around 310 FPS on a 0.2. Should be around 350, 360, but we'll address that on a later date. Very nicely placed duct tape on the back here because there's a lot of machine work that I did on this gun externally that makes it pretty doggone gross to look at. GMP golf ball A2 style grip on the bottom, eBay magwell catch grip on the front. Yeah, this thing is pretty crazy. Super solidly built. It just looks super gross. But I mean, it doesn't move around on me at all, and it shoots really nicely. So as you can hear, I mean, the performance is there. How much money did I spend on this? Again, $60, and it spiraled out of control. I would have been much better off just buying a GMP M4 that I liked externally and doing it from there instead of starting with a D-Boys gun, because again, I had to replace the low receiver. I got a different upper receiver. Then I got a receiver kit because I wanted to run 2 different uppers. But this receiver the GMP doesn't fit with the Mad Bull, so I had to do some machine work, and then that's where it gets all gross looking. The gearbox didn't want to fit in there. The D-Boys one didn't want to fit in here. The EFCS didn't want to fit in the Mad Bull. Finally got the Slong one to fit in nicely. Now I was getting sealing issues with the hop-up because different outer barrel, different receiver, different lower, a bunch of different little things like that. So the air nozzle length is a little bit off. So I don't know. Just a lot of little things that you just end up replacing. Things that you don't even think about. The mag release. I was using the stock D-Boys mag release for a long time. Ended up stripping the screw because it's not meant to be opened up and closed the amount of times that I've opened up and closed this gearbox. At least over 100 times. It's going to snap on you. The body pins. I sanded them down to the point where the whole thing was loose, so I had to get some new body pins on here. I think these are the body pins from my first airsoft gun ever, so kind of a throwback to that. I mean, just some little things like that just add up over time. The stock gearbox, before it cracked, I was running into issues where the threading was stripping out on the stock gearbox from the D-Boys because it was so cheap. At a certain point, if you're going to build a gun, just build it right the first time. You know, I had plenty of opportunities just to save up, fork over the cash for a Retro Arms gearbox and a Gate Titan or Leviathan earlier than I did. But I was trying to be budget over and over again. That was the whole point, be a budget, high performing airsoft gun. But as those budget parts kept breaking, I put well over $1,000 into this gun. For a gun that on paper should have only cost, for what's in here at least, around $600 to build completely from scratch, $600-700 to build completely from scratch. But again, well over $1,000 with everything that I've broken and had in this gun ever. So not a good investment at all compared to my other guns that I have. This is the worst investment possible. But like I said, it has such a good story behind it, and not a good story, but an interesting story behind it that I have to complete. I had to get this thing back up and running, and thankfully it runs really nicely. Again, like I said, the last thing's going to be is upgrade hop-up chamber because it's too cheap for the performance that I need to be getting out of it. Our hop in our barrel is going to be shooting like a dream. The 9-tooth DSG in here should be getting around, I would say, 370 FPS if I'm lucky with the hop-up system I get in here. But yeah, this is the way not to do it, guys. If you're going to build a gun that's completely custom, in all honesty, either have someone do it for you that knows what they're doing if you don't know what you're doing, or do it from the start. Don't start with a base gun. Just start with something brand new. And also, buy the same brand parts. So if you have a receiver, stick with GMP externals. Stick with VFC externals. At least the upper and lower receiver. Make sure you get an outer barrel that matches properly. If I was going to go to GMP receiver, I would get GMP outer barrel. And then you're going to have a lot less issues with fitting and finishing stuff to get it to work together. Heck, at the start of my video, I was talking about my G3. This receiver actually came with a metal upper receiver, but the metal upper receiver was so off spec to this JG upper that I couldn't even use it. But thankfully, the lower receiver fits nicely, and that eliminated all the wobble and creaking noise that this thing had that made it feel so cheap. But anyway, guys, that's the things I would recommend internal-wise as well. Stick with one brand as well. If you're going Lonnex gearbox, buy Lonnex compression components, Lonnex bushings, that kind of stuff. Retro Arms, stick with Retro Arms, especially for the big components, you know. And that's going to make things so much easier. There's a lot of trickery, MacGyvering, and black market teching practices that goes on in here. Probably some spells that I uttered too to get this thing to work the way it is. And it could always come back to bite me in the butt. So that's pretty much the video. Mostly I just wanted to do an update on this gun, show you guys how it's shooting. But again, just a little couple tips here and there on how to upgrade your guns. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.